Reason? A move that few fans saw coming. The Cowboys have traded defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to the San Francisco 49ers, leaving a massive hole in the middle of their defensive front. This development has sparked questions across the entire NFL landscape. Why would Dallas move on from a player they just committed big money to? How does this affect their defensive scheme going forward? And perhaps most importantly, who in the world is going to replace him? Today, we're going to break down everything, from the reasoning behind the trade, to the Cowboys' shifting defensive philosophy, to potential replacements like veteran superstar Calais Campbell. We'll also take a deep dive into the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft and analyze prospects like Colton Hood, who could play a major role in Dallas' future. So let's start from the beginning. The Cowboys' defensive line was once a strength. Just 1 year ago, the Cowboys looked unstoppable on the interior defensive line. They had assembled what many considered a dream rotation. Leading the group was Osa Odigizua, a player Dallas had just rewarded with a massive 4-year contract worth $80 million. Odigizua had developed into one of the most reliable interior pass rushers in the league, bringing quickness, disruption, and consistent pressure from the inside. But he wasn't alone. Dallas also made a huge move by acquiring Kenny Clark from the Green Bay Packers. Clark had long been one of the league's most respected defensive tackles, known for his strength at the point of attack and ability to collapse the pocket. Then, in another blockbuster move, Dallas traded for Quinnen Williams from the New York Jets. At that moment, analysts across the league agreed on one thing. The Cowboys had the most expensive and possibly the most talented defensive tackle rotation in football. All three players were earning more than $20 million per season. The expectation was simple. Quarterbacks would have nowhere to step up in the pocket. Running backs would struggle to find gaps. And opposing offensive lines would be overwhelmed by the sheer power and depth of Dallas' interior defense. But then something changed. A new defensive scheme changes everything. The biggest shift came when Dallas began transitioning to a 3-4 defensive scheme. This change dramatically altered the way defensive linemen were used. In a traditional 4-3 defense, interior defensive tackles like Odigizua often play as penetrating disruptors. Their job is to attack gaps, get into the backfield, and pressure the quarterback. But in a 3-4 system, the responsibilities can be very different. Instead of simply attacking, defensive linemen often need to occupy blockers, control gaps, and allow linebackers to make plays. For certain players, that transition is seamless. For others, it's not an ideal fit. In this case, Odigizua was expected to move into a 4-eye alignment, a position that lines up on the inside shoulder of the offensive tackle. While he certainly has the talent to adapt, many within the organization reportedly believed he was not the best schematic fit for the new system. That's when the trade conversations began, and eventually, the Cowboys decided to pull the trigger. The trade that shocked fans. The decision to trade Osa Odigizua to the San Francisco 49ers caught many fans off guard. After all, this was a player the Cowboys had just invested heavily in. But when teams change schemes, roster priorities often shift dramatically. Dallas already had Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams anchoring the interior. With a new defensive philosophy in place, the front office may have believed Odigizua was the most logical player to move. Still, the trade leaves a major problem. The Cowboys suddenly need a starting-caliber defensive tackle, and the timing couldn't be worse. Free agency options are disappearing. The free agent market for defensive tackles has been shrinking quickly. Several of the best available veterans have already signed with new teams. Among them are players like Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Deshaun Hand. One by one, these players have disappeared from the market, leaving the Cowboys with fewer and fewer options. And now, one name stands out above the rest. The veteran who refuses to slow down. Enter Calais Campbell. At nearly 40 years old, Campbell is one of the oldest defensive linemen still playing in the NFL. But what makes him remarkable is that he still performs at a high level. Many players begin declining in their early 30s. Campbell, however, continues to produce season after season. Over an astonishing 18-year career, He has consistently generated quarterback pressures, disrupted offenses, and provided leadership in every locker room he's joined. According to Pro Football Focus, Campbell has recorded 30 or more quarterback pressures in almost every season of his career. Even more impressive, he has maintained a PFF grade above 70 for 15 consecutive seasons. That level of consistency is almost unheard of. For the Cowboys, signing Campbell could provide immediate stability. Not only would he help fill the hole left by Odigizwa, but he would also bring experience and leadership to a defense undergoing major changes. Of course, there's one big question. How much does Campbell have left in the tank? The draft could be the real solution. While free agency might provide a short-term answer, the long-term future of the Cowboys' defense likely lies in the upcoming NFL draft. The 2026 NFL draft is expected to be loaded with defensive talent, and Dallas currently holds 2 first-round picks. This gives them enormous flexibility. However, their draft strategy became far more complicated after another shocking move earlier this offseason. The Cowboys traded superstar pass rusher Micah Parsons in exchange for those 2 first-round selections. It was a controversial decision. Parsons had been one of the most dominant defensive players in football, but the trade signaled something very clear. Dallas is entering a new era. A full defensive rebuild may already be underway. Could the Cowboys target a cornerback? One position that has quickly become a priority is cornerback. Among the most intriguing prospects in the draft is Tennessee standout Colton Hood. Hood wasn't originally expected to be a first-round pick, but after a dominant season with the Volunteers, his stock has skyrocketed. Standing just under 6 feet tall and weighing around 193 pounds, Hood combines speed, physicality, and toughness. His 4.44-second 40-yard dash shows he has the long speed needed to keep up with elite NFL receivers. But what really stands out is his aggressive playing style. Hood thrives in press coverage, using his hands to disrupt receivers at the line of scrimmage. Many scouts believe his style is perfectly suited for teams that want to play man-to. First wave of this year's free agency period, their strategy has looked a little different. Instead of chasing the biggest names on the market, Dallas has taken a far more calculated approach. The front office has focused on value signings, depth additions, and strategic upgrades, rather than the massive splash moves that dominate headlines. And while some fans may find that approach frustrating, there's a strong argument that it's actually the smartest path forward for the team. Let's take a closer look at what the Cowboys have done so far, and what moves might still be coming. Strengthening the secondary. One of the Cowboys' biggest priorities entering free agency was the secondary. In today's NFL, defenses live and die by their ability to defend the pass. With elite quarterbacks and explosive receivers dominating the league, having reliable defensive backs is absolutely essential. Dallas addressed this need by adding 2 experienced safeties. First, they brought in Jalen Thompson, a versatile defensive back known for his range and playmaking ability. Thompson has built a reputation as a reliable coverage defender who can also step up in run support. Alongside him, the Cowboys signed P.J. Locke, another player who brings toughness and flexibility to the defensive backfield. These moves may not dominate sports talk shows, but they matter. Strong safety play can transform a defense, especially in a system that relies heavily on communication and discipline. For Dallas, adding Thompson and Locke gives the coaching staff more flexibility when designing coverage schemes. But the Cowboys weren't finished with the secondary just yet. A potential steal at cornerback. One of the more intriguing additions of the offseason came when Dallas signed former Los Angeles Rams cornerback Cobie Durant. Durant may not be a household name yet, but he's a player many scouts believe has significant upside. During his time with the Rams, Durant showed flashes of becoming a very capable cover corner. His quickness, instincts, and ability to break on the ball make him a valuable asset in both zone and man coverage. For the Cowboys, Durant represents the kind of low-risk, high-reward signing that smart teams love to make. If he develops into a reliable starter, Dallas will have secured a key defensive piece at a bargain price. If not, he still provides quality depth. Either way, it's a win. Reinforcing the defensive line. The Cowboys also made a move to strengthen the interior of their defensive line by signing former Los Angeles Chargers nose tackle Otito Ogbonnia. Ogbonnia isn't known for flashy statistics, but that's not really his role. As a nose tackle, his primary responsibility is to anchor the middle of the defense, absorb blockers, and prevent opposing offenses from running the ball effectively. In a 3-4 defensive scheme, that role is incredibly important. Having a strong nose tackle allows linebackers to stay clean and make plays. For Dallas, Ogbonnia adds size, strength, and rotational depth to a defensive front that is still undergoing major changes. But even after these signings, the Cowboys still have several needs to address. And with the major free agency splashes likely behind them, the team may now turn its attention to affordable veteran options. Potential bargain free agents. As the free agency market continues to thin out, several veteran players remain available who could provide value for the Cowboys. These aren't superstar signings, but they could fill important roles. Let's look at 3 names that could make sense for Dallas. Larry Ogunjobi, defensive line depth. The first player to watch is veteran defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi spent the 2025 season with the Buffalo Bills after signing a 1-year contract worth $8.3 million. Unfortunately for both sides, the season didn't go as planned. Ogunjobi was suspended for the first 6 games after violating the NFL's PD policy, which significantly limited his impact during the year. When he returned, he played in 10 games and recorded 19 tackles. Perhaps the most surprising statistic? He finished the season without a single sack, the first time that had happened in his entire 9-year career. But numbers don't always tell the full story. Ogunjobi still has valuable experience and versatility. During his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he gained significant experience playing defensive end in a 3-4 scheme. That makes him an intriguing potential fit for the Cowboys. He may not be a star anymore, but as a rotational defensive lineman, he could provide stability and depth. Bobby Wagner, veteran leadership. If there's one name on this list that NFL fans immediately recognize, it's Bobby Wagner. Few linebackers in league history have built a resume as impressive as Wagner's. A future Hall of Famer, Wagner spent the majority of his legendary career with the Seattle Seahawks, where he became one of the defining defensive players of his generation. Now, at age 36, many assumed his best days were behind him, but last season proved otherwise. While playing for the Washington Commanders, Wagner delivered an astonishing stat line: 162 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. That level of production would be impressive for a linebacker in his prime. For someone in their mid-30s, it's remarkable. There's also an important connection here. Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer previously worked with Wagner during their time together in Seattle. That familiarity could make Dallas a natural landing spot. Wagner wouldn't be a long-term solution, but he could provide something this Cowboys defense desperately needs: leadership, experience, and stability in the middle of the field. Dante Fowler Jr., a familiar face. The third potential addition is someone Cowboys fans already know well. Veteran pass rusher Dante Fowler Jr. has spent time with Dallas before, and a reunion could make sense. The Cowboys recently added Rashawn Gary, who is expected to become the team's primary pass rushing threat. But even great pass rushers need help. Depth at edge rusher is critical in today's NFL, where defensive lines rotate constantly to stay fresh. Fowler's numbers in 2025 weren't spectacular. He recorded just 3 sacks. However, statistics don't always capture a pass rusher's full impact. According to Pro Football Reference, Fowler generated 20 quarterback pressures, showing that he was still capable of disrupting opposing offenses. And history suggests he can be far more productive. Just one season earlier, while playing for the Washington Commanders, Fowler recorded 10.5 sacks. That kind of production would be extremely valuable for Dallas, especially with young pass rusher Donovan Ezerwaku recovering from hip surgery. Adding Fowler would give the Cowboys an experienced insurance policy while the team evaluates its long-term options. The Cowboys' strategy moving forward. Taken together, these moves reveal a clear strategy: Dallas isn't trying to win the offseason headlines. Instead, the front office appears focused on building a balanced roster with depth, flexibility, and financial control. That approach may not excite fans in the short term, but it could position the Cowboys for success in the long run. And with the 2026 NFL Draft approaching, the team still has plenty of opportunities to reshape its roster. The real question is this: will Dallas continue prioritizing defense? Or could they shock everyone by targeting offensive talent, with one G has looked a little different? Instead of chasing the biggest names on the market, Dallas has taken a far more calculated approach. The front office is focused on value signings, depth additions, and strategic upgrades, rather than the massive splash moves that dominate headlines. And while some fans may find that approach frustrating, there's a strong argument that it's actually the smartest path forward for the team. Let's take a closer look at what the Cowboys have done so far, and what moves might still be coming. Strengthening the secondary. One of the Cowboys' biggest priorities entering free agency was the secondary. In today's NFL, defenses live and die by their ability to defend the pass. With elite quarterbacks and explosive receivers dominating the league, having reliable defensive backs is absolutely essential. Dallas addressed this need by adding 2 experienced safeties. First, they brought in Jalen Thompson, a versatile defensive back known for his range and playmaking ability. Thompson has built a reputation as a reliable coverage defender who can also step up in run support. Alongside him, the Cowboys signed P.J. Locke, another player who brings toughness and flexibility to the defensive backfield. These moves may not dominate sports talk shows, but they matter. Strong safety play can transform a defense, especially in a system that relies heavily on communication and discipline. For Dallas, adding Thompson and Locke gives the coaching staff more flexibility when designing coverage schemes. But the Cowboys weren't finished with the secondary just yet. A potential steal at cornerback. One of the more intriguing additions of the offseason came when Dallas signed former Los Angeles Rams cornerback Cobie Durant. Durant may not be a household name yet, but he's a player many scouts believe has significant upside. During his time with the Rams,